So we look at this shirt, right? And you're a little skinnier, but not too far from this. And then we look at this dress form and it looks 6. And then when we look at your size, whatever you shop, probably you buy 2. Yeah? Okay. You don't know. You don't buy your clothes?
I do, but I don't look at the number. I just try to buy.
Okay, yes. For the,
How do you pick your size?
For the hypothetical, yes. choose
Okay,
the 2.
so let me explain. I don't know if I explained this to you guys before or not, but this is the old way of France couture houses measuring, and that's what they follow, this sizing. By the way, I don't know if you're familiar, every country has a different sizing. Everybody has a different way of measuring. If you come from Europe, it's something, even shoes and so on, right? It's not to make yourself difficult, it's just everybody decided. Now, there is something that we need to think about, and it's actually very frustrating. I know that when you go buy jeans, you know you wear one size and you pick up 6 pair of jeans, you put them in the dressing room, and they all fit differently, right?
Yes.
And you're all upset. You
Yes.
actually should be very happy about it. And I'm gonna tell you why. This country tried at a very long time to standardize sizing. Well, are we all standardized sizing?
What
No.
is standardized?
So let's say that you wear a size 25. No, you wear a size 2, right? And then all of a sudden she had a couple cookies and now she can't fit on her 2, but the 4 is too big. What does she do? She locks herself in her house and starves to death until she's back into 2, or she eats her way out until the 4, right? You don't. You just go to a different brand because everybody has a different range of sizing, right? We all embrace diversity, and we need to embrace diversity on sizes. You're very tall, I'm very short, right? So whatever I wear is gonna be like you're passing a river, and me it's like I'm tripping on my face, right? Nothing against it. I hate you. Nothing against it. I'm just kidding, right? But that's the reason why. So keep in mind that somebody tall and somebody short, it is not just cut at the bottom of it. It is that we are proportionately shorter, right? Let's say, for example, a basic bodice, and you have somebody that he has a shorter torso, right? Probably you buy a dress, you put it on, and it gets stuck here. It doesn't go down because your torso, you're petite. By the way, petite is not skinny. Petite is short, okay? So you need to buy a petite torso in order to fit you correctly, right? So if I'm doing a petite, I don't cut it just from here because then you end up having your breast on your waist. It is proportionately smaller, okay? So your armhole will be lower, but not as much, and your bust point is gonna be lower, but not as much, and all of that, because it has to be proportionately on the body, okay? Same goes with a taller person and a shorter person. My rise, because I'm shorter, is shorter than his rise that is longer. So if I were to buy a Perry Ellis pair of pants, which I never get caught dead doing, right? I would look like one of those old Miami Beach men because my waist will be here, right? You guys got my point, right? So these hip lower pants, they're actually great because now they're actually my natural waist, right? So I embrace that. So if you usually go shopping and you buy a size 4, and then all of a sudden you fit in the 00, how do you feel? Depressed? Like that, right? So during the 70s, Mr. Calvin Klein had the greatest idea. Why don't I go to my showroom, and before I'm showing my collection, I take the size 8 and I replace it for a size 4. and I take my size 6 and I replace it for a size 2. And I take my size 14 and I replace it for a size 10. If it's identical, it's just a number. And what you're doing is a marketing technique that you're actually playing with the psychology of the customer, right? So everybody caught on. Anybody has bought evening dresses or bridal dresses or bridesmaids dresses, and you usually go and they give you like 4 sizes bigger than you usually wear, and the salesperson says, oh, don't worry, they run small. That's not that they run small. It is that the evening and the bridal industry never caught on to what the sportswear and casual clothing industry did, right? Bless you. So they were aware of it and everybody followed, right? Now you guys are gonna ask me, what about small, medium, and large, right? Small, medium, and large works only with garments that they're not completely fitted. For example, an elasticized skirt, right? So, for example, a size 2 and 4, it would be extra small. 6 and 8, no, actually, no, that's small. 6 and 8 will be medium. 10 and 12 will be large, and 14 and 16 is extra large. So, let's say in that case, if you are an 8 and you're buying a medium, you're gonna be a little looser than if a 10 buys the same medium, that is gonna be a little tighter, but still gonna fit. And that's where the letters come in, just not to confuse you, right? That's why you find it a lot on sweatshirts and sweaters and that kind of stuff. But when you go into buying your blue jeans, you have a very specific measurement, unless you buy something that is elasticized. Does that make sense? So, you look at these dress forms, it says like, I'm not a 6, I'm actually a 2, and you're right. You're right, because of that reason, okay? So remember, this is a business. You can find the ways to try to convince your customers. I mean, it's like, I go to the store and I fit in a suit size 34, and it says like, give me one in every color, right? I don't buy that size ever. 34 is not waist, it's jacket. Usually wear a 42 or 44, right? So that's the game that they are playing. So you're gonna ask me this question, and some of you already have asked me and I answered. I want to buy a dress form. What size should I buy? And what is my answer? First of all, you need to decide what kind of business you're gonna have. If you're gonna do a runway show, maybe you wanna buy a 6 or a 4. If you're going to actually make clothes for Middle America, you probably will buy a 14, 16, because that's the standard size of most women in this country. Okay, a new generation is changing, but that's what it used to be. And Ozempic, I'm sure, is changing, right? But you follow what I'm saying, right? So we have to be up with the trends and with the times, so we can understand that, right? So, what size should you buy? First of all, you need to decide what kind of business you're gonna have. Second, you should never buy a dress form by the size number. You should look at the size chart and you can decide. I always use this as an example because I think this is very extreme and it actually illustrates, and I respect the brand. It's not to make it a joke. But you guys have heard of the brand Apple Bottoms?
Yes.
Right. What is Apple Bottoms for?
For women with
For-
apple bottoms.
So big booty girls, right? So what happened with big booty girls, right? They're not necessarily very hippie. They actually have volume in the back, right? So if anybody has seen anybody like that, or you are, I respect it, when I'm politically correct, right? When you sit down, your jeans gap here in the back. So the pants are actually made with a deeper dart in the back to make sure that that doesn't happen, right? So I don't have to tell the student when they call me to talk, and say, tell her please to pull her pants up because her thong is completely out, right? Because she had a little apple bottom. Okay? So it's a different market. And it's filling up a niche that it has never been addressed to, right? So instead of having to buy all your jeans and always make a deeper dart in the back, which I know a lot of people do, you actually can buy a pair of pants that fits you well. And I know that. Like, I don't buy Perry Ellis pants, and I buy different brands because I know that they're comfortable for me, right? I don't buy certain brands or certain styles because I have big calves. I used to cycle. So my pants are always falling down because it's not going up on my calf, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you need to decide that by looking at the measurements of your dress form. If you guys are interested on spending money, please ask me. I can try to give you the best pricing. Just don't go crazy and buying those foam. You know, there is those dress forms that have a dial here that you can make it bigger and smaller. Don't waste your money. First of all, they're made out of foam core, so eventually it pokes in and it changes shape. You're gonna have an inverted breast, right? Second, it doesn't really grow proportionately correctly, okay? So we can check on eBay where I use one, right? If it even exists anymore, or Etsy or anything. But if you are actually making the investment, we have dress forms that the brand is called Wolf Form. They're actually the most expensive ones, and they're made in the US. They're over $1,000 each. Okay? I don't recommend them. I'm gonna tell you why. Because it's a huge investment, and the shape of the body of humans change with time. You know, during the 2000s, there was a big change on the fit of clothes. You know, a majority of women, and if you have done this, I want to be politically correct, I'm not judging you in any way, but there was a massive amount of women getting breast implants. So you don't think about that as a fashion trend, but it actually was. People were going under the knife to change the shape of their bodies. So then now clothes needed to be made so your bust cups are bigger, right? Now, how can you make your breasts look bigger without having to go through surgery? You're gonna tell me the push-up bra and the water bra and the water fountain bra, and they invented all of these different names of bras, right? But the purpose of that bra, it wasn't really to push your skin out, it was actually to give you definition with what is your midriff and your breast. And that's why you have some of those dress forms. Can you turn that one around so we can see it? See that one has a seam right under the bust, right? Look at how, if you put it profile sideways, there is a very big definition between the thorax and the actual breast. But then if you look at this one, that it doesn't have the seam, it almost is connected from the bust point to the waist. It kind of gives you like a uniboob, which was very popular in the 1900s. That was the fashion of the time.
Like a pigeon.
Right? So when you buy a dress form, usually they'll come with a year. And that would tell you what was worn, what was the shape of the women of the time, right? So even though you buy a cheaper dress form on eBay, just make sure that you don't buy it just because it's cheaper so you can have one. You're actually buying it because you want the shape of the body that you're going to be using for your career. If you're somebody that is going to make loose casual clothes like big old shirts or t-shirts or sweatshirts, then it doesn't matter. But if you're going to be doing something that will do bustiers and it will create evening dresses or that kind of stuff, maybe you want more definition under your breast, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Would you suggest just getting, they sell the padding,
Say it again.
the padding for it? Would you suggest
There
that? or no?
is a brand that it's called, this woman actually invented a system that is called Fabulous Fit. She makes her own dress forms. They are middle of the way in price point. She has written a book, she has done videos, and she actually taught classes in FIT. But she invented a system that you buy, I think it's 14 silicone pads, and she created a sweater, like a turtleneck sweater. So as you roll the sweater, you put the paddings on it, and you can give any size on it. So you can make your dress form go up to 3 sizes bigger. I had used it for custom sizing. I had one time this one girl, she had very small breasts, but she had a really, really broad back. And I was able to do that and pad here on the back
You guys are
to
terrible.
have her shape, and actually got perfect fit at the first time. Because I was able to measure it properly part by part and recreate it on the dress form. Okay, so yes, and now Amazon actually has knockoffs of that.
Okay.
They are less expensive. But if you're interested on looking into that, look at fabulousfit.com. Okay, and you can learn from it. She used to have videos on YouTube for everybody to do it, and then she wrote a book and she wants you to pay for it and all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know if they're still available, but it's worth looking into it. Okay, and if you look in Amazon, the ones that do that, they probably will have these little small videos that will explain the concept of how to use that. I call it a t-shirt. It's like a turtleneck that you put on, stretchy, that it would hold it in place and you can pad it. You know, people have different shapes. I mean, some people have bellies, right? Some people are really flat and they have muffin tops. So you can recreate that when you are actually creating the pattern on it, right? And it's made out of silicone, so it actually has a little bit of mushiness like skin has. So you can get to see it. All right? Okay, so let's start with the shirt. You want to stop the video so we can flip it?